Good morning and welcome back. We are continuing to look at the signs in St. John's Gospel. We are going to look today at the sixth sign by my reckoning, and that's the raising of Lazarus, which you can find, if you want to follow it in your own Bible, in John chapter 11, verses 1 to 46. This man was ill. His name was Lazarus from Bethany, the village where Mary and Martha lived. Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with sweet-smelling oil and wiped his feet with her hair. Lazarus, the ill man, was her brother. The sisters sent a message to Jesus, "Look, sir, your dear friend is ill." When Jesus received the message, he said, "This illness isn't deadly, it's for God's glory, and so that by it people will see God's Son's glory as well." Martha and her sister and Lazarus were very close friends of Jesus, but when he heard Lazarus was ill, he hung on where he was for 2 more days, after which he said to the disciples, "It's time for us to go back to Judea." The disciples said to him, "Do you really want to go back there, teacher? It's not long since the Jews there were wanting to stone you." Jesus answered, "There are only 12 hours of daylight. Walk in the day, and you won't stumble because of the light in the world. Walk in the night, and you will stumble in the dark." When he had said this, he told them, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, and I want to go and wake him up." The disciples said, "Oh, if he's only asleep, he'll get better." Jesus, of course, had meant Lazarus had died, but the disciples thought he meant sleep literally. So Jesus had to clarify it for them. Lazarus has died. I'm glad I wasn't there for your sake. This will help you to believe. So let's go to him. Thomas, called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, "Let's all go and die with him." When Jesus arrived, he discovered that Lazarus had been in the tomb 4 days already. Bethany is only about 3 kilometers from Jerusalem, and a good number of Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them over their brother's death. As soon as Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, while Mary sat in the house. Martha said to Jesus, "Oh, sir, if only you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died. And now I know that whatever you ask of God, he will grant you." Jesus said to her, "Your brother is going to rise again." Martha replied, "I know he's going to rise again at the resurrection on the last day." Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection. Whoever believes in me, even though they die, yet shall they live. Whoever is alive and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?" She said to him, "Yes, sir, I believe you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one who is coming into the world." When she had finished speaking, she went and got her sister Mary. Quietly she whispered to her, "The teacher has come. He wants to see you." When she heard, she got up right away and went to him. He hadn't quite got to the village, but was still where Martha had met him. The Jews who had been at the house consoling Mary saw her get up in a hurry and leave the house, and they followed her, assuming she was going to the tomb to weep. Mary came to where Jesus was and collapsed at his feet. She said, "Oh, sir, if only you'd been here, my brother wouldn't have died." He saw her weeping, and the Jews with her. That moved him deeply inside himself and bothered him. He said, "Where have you laid him?" They said, "Come and see, sir." Jesus wept, so the Jews said, "Look how much he loved him." But there were some there who said, "He opened the eyes of the blind. Couldn't he have kept this man from dying?" Jesus was still really upset as he approached the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid over it. Jesus said, "Take the stone off it." Martha, the dead man's sister, said to Jesus, "By now it will stink, sir. He's been dead 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Do you remember me telling you that all you need to do is believe and you would see God's glory?" So they did take the stone off. Jesus looked up and said, Father, I thank you for listening to me. I am aware that you always listen to me. I'm only saying this aloud because of the people standing here. I want them to believe that it was you who sent me." When he had said this, he called out with a loud voice, "Come out, Lazarus!" And the dead man came out, hands and feet still bound with windings, and his face wrapped in a sweatcloth. Jesus said, "Get him unbound, release him." A good number of the Jews who had come with Mary and saw what Jesus did came to have faith in him. But some went to the Pharisees to report what Jesus had done for them. Now this sixth sign, by my reckoning, is the one that points most clearly to the nature of Jesus as the living Word of God. He had already spoken about his ability to pick up or to take off his human life at will. He possesses the power of life over death. And before he gives himself up freely to the death of the cross, he wants us all to know that it is his wish to use that power to bring ordinary humans like us to life. This penultimate sign points very clearly towards the coming resurrection of Jesus himself. First, we must make sure that nobody mistakes this Mary for Mary Magdalene. This Mary's story can be found in John chapter 12, verses 1 to 8. Now, this may or may not be the same woman as the penitent one referred to in Luke 7:36 and the following verses. I think it is likely that these are all different women on separate occasions. Then, let's look at Thomas. Now, Thomas, when Jesus sets off towards his friend, Jesus says something, Thomas says something that at first sounds odd. It almost seems as if he has misunderstood Jesus when he says, "Let's all go and die with him." But in fact, this blunt fisherman has put his finger right on it. He knows that dangers await them all in the capital city, and the village they are going to is right there in its suburbs. For us, of course, the significance of this story is summed up in Jesus' saying, "I am the resurrection." Other old manuscripts add, "and the life." I am the resurrection and the life. And this has become the opening sentence of many a Christian funeral right down through the ages. That Jesus wept real tears at the grave of his dear friend was noted by the crowd. There had, of course, been a good amount of ritual keening at the graveside. That was a normal cultural expression of grief in those days. In contrast, Jesus' tears were not a ritual, but real. And so was his prayer, which he admits wasn't necessary, but it expresses exactly why he's doing this. The dead man, emphatically dead, buried for 4 days, is called by the voice of the Son of God, called by the Word made flesh. He lives again. He comes out of his tomb. He is released. Well, the last 3 days of our time with St. John look at 3 aspects of John's final and definitive sign, the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ himself. I'll see you tomorrow and we'll make a start on that.